kind of like winning. Whenever you get excited about something, every single time an image finally starts to fall into place and I get to that spot, it's just like finishing the finish line at a race. It feels right, it feels good. Reality is boring to me. I'm not really interested in reality. It's not really my thing. I like to create surreal things, and that's what makes it fun for me, is that I can take what's in my brain and I can mash a bunch of stuff together and create something that is surreal. So a really good composite image, final edit to me, looks like you can't see the composite. So you don't know where reality ends and fantasy begins. And I think that is the most exciting part of making composite artwork.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creative Live. Welcome back to Creative Live. I'm your host, Kenna Klosterman, and today we are kicking off a brand new class with Renée Robyn. So before we go into introducing her, bringing her on screen, what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about how this is going to go, and of course, do a call for shout outs. As you know, we have a global community here on Creative Live. So if you are watching on the class page right now on creativelive.com, you can click in the chat icon. We want to hear from you. We want to know where it is that you are tuning in from all over the world. And also, if you're watching on social media, let us know as well so we can start doing those shout outs. This is going to be about 30-minute session, and we've got, like I said, Renée live, and then we're going to premiere her Introduction to Fantasy Compositing course, and that is going to play for you for 24 hours. It's a 2-hour course, and that is, again, our free watch. Everybody has access, and of course, then if you want to be able to utilize the course later to be able to pause, stop, rewind, you can always purchase the course. We're going to talk about some of the bonus materials that are included when you do have that course or you're a Creator Pass subscriber. So that's what's going to happen today, and we are excited. All right, so let's, without further ado, as I go check on where people are tuning in from for a second. We've got Lisa Carney who says, "My girl, I love Renée and Kenna." We have Jermaine in Dallas. We have Didier in Belgium. We have Peace. Oh, what a great name. Peace in Menifee, California. Simon in Houston. Barbara in Colorado. We've got France. So they're coming in from everywhere. Renée, let's bring on Renée Robyn. She is a photographer and creates fantasy worlds with her work, and you know her for her style, and we're so excited to have her on to teach a new class on how to create those worlds. So Renée Robyn, welcome.
Hello. Good morning.
My main question today is, are we going to see Kitty come through on
So the cat does photobomb a little bit. There's like little bits of ears. She was watching like just out of frame, and I kept having to like move her head to see like the toolbar and stuff. So yeah, you'll see like little like pokey things appearing here and there.
Awesome. I love it. Again, we have, again, more people coming in from Lyon, from Cincinnati, UK, Texas, Alberta.
Oh,
Where are you
nice.
joining us? Where are you joining us from? I don't know if everybody knows in general. You're a Canadian, right?
Yeah, I'm a Canadian. Yeah, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Winter
so
up here.
Darcy in New Zealand. Awesome, everybody.
What?
So what's going to happen again if you are just tuning in is this is our live kickoff with Renée. This is a chance for you to ask her questions, but we're also going to tee up what it is that you're going to learn in the class. And of course, we're in COVID times, and so Renée pre-recorded the class, but we still wanted to give you access to her with this live kickoff. So that's going to start at about 9:30 PST, the class itself, where you are. Let's talk about what you are going to learn. Actually, before we talk about the specifics of what you're going to learn, Renée, you are known for creating these fantasy worlds, and let's talk about how you came up with how you come up with fantasy worlds, but then also about for this specific class, because you are going to walk people through how to composite this particular image in this course.
Right. So which one would you like me to start with?
Start with, in general, where do you come up with your ideas for creating worlds?
I mean, is a super complicated question. I'm going to cut it down as much as I can because, I mean, some of the ideas come from like dreaming, and some of the ideas come from, seeing other great artwork and being inspired by it. And a lot of the times the work gets inspired the most by what I see in front of me. So if I look at someone or I'm at a certain location, there might be like a little piece there where I'm like, oh, that'd be really nice to make something with that. I'm not sure what it would be yet, but I'm going to keep that earmarked, and I'll keep coming back to it and keep coming back to it. And eventually, like, more puzzle pieces fall into place. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I have all the pieces. Now I can put them together in post. That's pretty common.
I love though that if some of these come to you in dreams, or just again, it's like there's inspiration everywhere, and then there's taking that and actually making it into something. I want to ask the people online to participate. Like, where is it that you guys get your inspiration when you are kind of coming up with fantasy compositing or just compositing in general? When you're thinking like, I'm going to take this image in a studio, a portrait of a person, and then put them in some new world. So let us know again what you are seeing, and if you're on the course page, just try refreshing again. I'm just seeing as people are commenting coming in, and we've got Kate there in the chat room. So we will let's see. We will refresh the page, chat with Kate, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's talk about the particular image that, again, in this course, people are going to be able to work through. So before we show it, let's talk about how you came up with a concept for it.
Yeah, so this is an image. I mean, obviously it's COVID, and we were in lockdowns when I filmed this, so like there was very limited help on this. But this is an image that I had photographed in the Netherlands with a model and designer. Her name is Veritas, and her work is incredible. I mean, every single piece of costuming that she makes is a work of art. And I love how she sculpts her costuming with the thoughts in mind of how her subject is going to feel wearing the costuming, which I thought was so profound for me. I'd never considered that before, and I love that. I love that thought. And so I thought about it with this shot, and I have so many good ones of her from that session. It was actually from a workshop in the Netherlands, but it was an image that we didn't use. And I was just like, I looked at it and I just loved her pose and her expression and the way the costuming, like the fabric draped, and then this incredible headdress kind of created this like otherworldly creature. And I was like, oh man, like what would I do with that if I could? And so in this case, I wanted to make an environment, knowing that I was making an intro class, I wanted to make an environment that didn't fight with the costuming, right? I really wanted like her and the costuming to be the main feature, right? Sometimes when you're creating these kinds of images, the subject can be quite small, and it's the environment that is the personality in the shot. But with her, in her case, the costuming is so strong and so beautiful. It's like I didn't want to have tons and tons and tons of detail kind of like fighting for the viewer's attention. So I kind of went for like a slightly more minimalist design with the composite, something that's like a little bit obviously easier to like mash everything together. But I just wanted it to be kind of like, when you're cooking and you just like add a little bit of salt, that's kind of what I wanted this to look like, because she was like the whole meal showing up. She just like looks incredible. It was impossible to take a bad photo of her in that outfit. So I just wanted the environment to just be like this really nice aftertaste.
Well, I love that how you talked about her creating things for how the model to feel. I mean, that's really cool. And just the concept of putting feeling into images and, obviously the composites and everything. If we haven't already, let's take a look at the before and after. Again, what this course is going to be is you guys are going to be able to recreate what Renee is doing and do a follow along. Again, if you own the course or a Creator Pass subscriber here on Creative Live, you're going to be able to download some bonus images. So first, let's take a look at that before and after, and we will be able to take a look at what it is that you are going to create. And then we're going to talk through, again, some of the bonus materials. And then what we're going to do is actually see kind of a fast forward of all the things you're going to learn. So talk to me about the images that you utilized the layers that you utilize to composite this together, and again, showing a bit of what those bonus materials are that people are going to be able to access.
Yeah, so the background pieces, one of them is from the fairy pools in Scotland. I was there a few years ago with some friends, and it's such a beautiful location. And it's one of the few times in a composite where I've used a wide angle shot on a compressed portrait. I don't normally do that. And so I kind of like show you, like walk you through how to like correct for that. But I mean, being at the fairy pools is such an inspiring and beautiful place. And then the clouds and the texture images in this in the download are just storms from here in Alberta. I mean, we get such incredible storm and cloud texture here in the prairies, being on the other side of the mountains. You know, all summer long, I just go out and photograph cloud texture, and I use it all the time. So I included, like, you know, the images in that I used for this, plus the image of fairy tass as well. So you get to follow along and mask out that crazy headdress.
I mean, what is the hardest part about choosing what background images you're going to use for composites? Like, okay, if you're out there and you're taking lots of images of these beautiful places and what have you, like, how do you go about choosing what you're going to use?
When I was making this class, I went through a lot of background images. I went through so many, and I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to use. I mean, the biggest thing was, because this is an intro class, I didn't want to pick anything but like huge trees, right? Of like, hey, let's mask out leaves now. Like that, no. That takes way too long. So, you know, it's kind of funny. I listened to a lecture once of a sculpture talking, and sculpture artist, and he works with stone, and they said, well, how do you decide what the stone is going to be? And he said, well, I work on it until the stone tells me what it wants to be. And I was like, oh, that's really good, because that's kind of like, I do the hack and slash version of that. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm equal to a sculptor, because that's just not true. But you know, that the whole thing of like, you're working on it and you're working on it, and then finally like this flow happens, right? I mean, obviously the best is always to like shoot your composite, the studio piece, after you already have your background piece. That's ideal. That's your perfect scenario. But 9 out of 10 times, I don't usually work that way, unless it's client work. So, you know, personal work or stuff like this, I'm just like, well, let's see what happens. And I go like skipping through files and hard drives, kind of just seeing what's going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, was how much is it is trial and error. But I love the concept of, like you said, once it's kind of like, yeah, once you see it, then you know. But
Yeah.
you don't always know beforehand, which is why you have to, you know, not be afraid to just go through and try a bunch of different things.
Fail often. It's fine. I actually recorded this once before with a different background, and by the time I finished, I was like, well, this sucks. I didn't like the image at all, and I was like, delete everything, start over.
So there you go. I mean, again,
Yeah.
trial and error. All
Totally.
right. So I want to give a couple of shout outs. People have been, again, this is our live session if you're just tuning in, and then we're going to roll into the class itself, the full 2-hour course, in about 15 minutes for everybody. And that's going to loop for 24 hours. So as you know, mark your calendar, block off some 2 hours for you. And then, of course, if you want to own the course, be able to use the downloadable tools, those images in the back to follow along, which, of course, is the best way to learn. It's really awesome that Renee has provided the exact elements of what she's teaching you to do in those 2 hours, because then you can literally follow along when you do own the course, or you are a Creator Pass subscriber. So you want to be able to do that now as you watch the class. So again, go ahead and purchase. It's on sale right now. And or if you're a Creator Pass subscriber, which gives you access to over 1,500 classes in the catalog, you can go ahead and start downloading those right away. If you have any questions about that, let us know in the chat room. Okay, so here's Renee, before we go into watching a bit of what it is that people are going to learn as a little preview. Here's what people are saying about how they come up with their, fantasy ideas and such. Susanna says, I guess from books and film and series, um, I'll get mixed what I want to express and the images form in my head. Phil as well, inspiration from film and TVs. I love cinematic photography. Again, your looks is very cinematic. Tara I get my inspiration from stories, fantasy novels, and tarot cards.
Nice.
Awesome. So lots of places for everybody to think about where they can get inspiration. But Renee, why don't you set up for us? We are going to now watch about a 5-minute video that shows you sort of at the end of everything that you are going to learn. So you get kind of a preview of what she is going to break down in more detail. So tell us about who this class is for, and in general, what are some of the tools and things that they're going to be able to learn by the end of it?
Great. So this class is for anyone who's a beginner and intermediate composite artist, or people who are interested in getting into fantasy compositing in general. It's not super advanced. I definitely avoided that for this one because I've had mentions in the past of like, oh yeah, it's really great, but like I didn't understand most of it. So I was like, okay, we'll dial this back. The prerequisite you need to know going into this is masking. Everything else, I basically walk you through it. So if you understand masking, then you're in good shape. If you don't understand masking, I go through a quick explanation, but you can, there's tons of Creative Live videos to watch how to work with masking. But yeah, and then from there, it's the first time I've ever talked about my skin retouching process. So I go through that first because it's my intro. So like, what do I do to every single image? Well, I retouch the skin first. And then we go into masking and then replacing the background and blending it together, and then color grading. So that's kind of it. And then like a little touch of saving on the end.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, let's roll that video for you guys. Again, join into the chat and you can put some questions in as you go through along. And we're going to, after about this 5-minute video, we're going to come back live with Renee. But here it is, everything that you're going to learn in this class. Let's roll the video.
Alrighty. So this is our first image. This is what we showed up with. Now, we did a frequency separation and we did a clone stamp. So first thing we did was we got rid of all the excess hair on the back of her neck, which was just from, she has a very tight bun, and some of the hair just fell out of it. And then we did frequency separation just to gently clean up some of the texture on the skin and a little bit of the tone unevenness. I mean, she's got perfect skin, it's ridiculous. One thing that does happen a lot though is foundation, especially if there's a lot of smiling or expressions, or sweating or anything like that. It can really add creasing into the face that is more severe than normal. So always keep that in mind if you're especially working in the fantasy realm where there's a lot of heavy makeup going on. It can cause like these really deep creases in the face, like around the eyes and the mouth, that maybe aren't normally there. So from here we handled the contrast. So we just quickly made an adjustment to the eye color, just a really quick hue saturation adjustment. We did the dodging, which was the curves layer where we did the overexposure, and then we brought it in with the soft brushes. We added a little bit of the shadow back into the neck. And then we did the burning on the rest of the image. Again, not very much. I'm pretty light on that kind of work. Whoops. Let's see here. And then this curves layer makes sense because we added it later, so I'll turn that off. Then we added in our elements. So I merged my model up here and created the mask. So that's where we sat looking at this forever. So if you want to see what the mask looks like, hold Alt, click, and you can see exactly what your silhouette looks like. This is actually like a super great habit to get into. So if you're working in character design and you're wanting to make like a really cool shape, study the silhouette of the mask, because the silhouette, like this shape, can really tell so much. You can tell so much of a story with like a really, really, really great pose. And so getting in the habit of when you make your masks, look at the silhouette and start being like, oh, is there something about this silhouette that kind of bothers me, or is there not? And can you change that in posing in the future for future concepts, or is it something that maybe a little bit liquefy or puppet warping can kind of help you with? So it's a super, super nice habit to get into when you're working with character design like this. Then we added the ground here. and we had reduced the clarity of the ground a little bit. So I'm not really a big fan of using Gaussian blur on backgrounds. I don't really like how it looks. So if I can avoid it, I will. Then we added the first sky layer here, which then we kind of like added more distance between the background here. So we painted with a soft round brush here. And then this one here is just to add a little bit of texture to the entire image, kind of like this rippling color effect going on. We did a curves adjustment just to kind of cool everything down, to kind of like pull everything together a little bit. A slight hue saturation adjustment just to gently turn it down a little bit, because I knew I was going to go into Adobe Camera Raw and like push these colors all different kinds of places. Like I said, I just really, really like how it looks. I think it's very pleasing to me. A gentle hue saturation adjustment on the eyes and teeth. Again, if you're posting this only to Instagram or social media, those details aren't really going to matter. Those details matter if you're really planning on going into printing. And then this is the liquefy, which I didn't call it anything. Liquefy. Name your layers. It'll save you tons of time being like, what was this layer again? And then here is the color layer. So that's kind of how I pull these composites together, especially for like a more introductory level composite. You know, the background pieces are not super complicated. The mask was super complicated, but you know, this is definitely like my 101. Like the most basic version of a composite that I like to make is 1 to 2 pieces, skin retouching and color grading, and just like smashing it together and being like, ta-da! Here's a composite.
All right, everyone. Well, what do you think? I am excited that, again, this was just, if you're just tuning in, this was a summary of the class, showing you what you're going to get throughout it and showing you what you're going to be able to learn. So I love that people are already commenting, Renee, as to what some of the things that they're excited about. Maureen is saying, study the silhouette of the mask. That's a super important point. Somebody else said, oh yes, right, name your layers. Yes, helps tremendously. So I did have a question come in from James Nelson Smith, who said, are you using the latest iteration, I can speak this morning, of Photoshop? And what are the earliest versions of Photoshop that you'd be able to utilize for this course?
You can basically use every version of Photoshop for this class. I did this on 2019. I didn't use this on 2021. It kept crashing, and I was just like, nope, not dealing with it. So the previous version that I had on my system was 2019. There is a small difference in one of the brushes. When I get to it, it's called the splatter brush. They've hidden it in 2021 somewhere under lash brush or something like that. I just discovered this last night. So FYI, if you're using 2021, there's one thing with the brush panel that's a little bit different, but everyone else, the brushes are going to be easier to find 2017 and older, and then 2018 to 2020, they're hidden where they are in this tutorial. So that's the only difference.
Okay, good to know. So thanks everybody for clarifying. Of course, if you are on the course page there on Creative Live, you can always scroll down in the description and see what version of software that folks are using in their courses. So we've talked about, again, what you're going to learn. We have talked about that you can get the bonus materials when you do purchase or own the class, so that you can literally just follow along step by step. When you do own the class, you can pause, stop, rewind, as you go through those steps. We did have a question come through from Revelaldo Fotografico, who's in Colombia, who says, do you use blend modes to compose?
I didn't in this tutorial, no. Yeah, so this is all done manually. There's no blending modes in it. Well, there's one layer that's blending mode, but the rest of it is not. So Mostly no.
Mostly no. Awesome. Let's see. I am going to continue to. We've got funny comments coming in. Photoshop 2021 crashes if you breathe wrong.
It's true, man. It's unstable. It's a problem. It reminds me of high school.
We're keeping it real here, everybody. Of course, they continue to improve, so no worries. But again, as you go back, you'll be able to, like Renee said, utilize this course with a number of the different versions of Photoshop.
100%. Yeah, I tried keeping it as user-friendly as possible.
Awesome. Was there anything that you sort of learned, like when you're kind of focused on, okay, I'm going to create this class? Are there things that like you discover while you're doing it?
I mean, I discovered, I wondered if everyone was going to be that excited about masking out that headdress. Because it's super complicated and massive and there's no fast way to do it. But I mean, it's the same thing as always. You get this kind of like excitement when you're working on an image that's coming together. And I really hope that other people will get a similar experience, either working on this along, or doing their own work afterwards. That's kind of the best that I can hope for, I think, anyways. Get excited about your own work, please. That would be great.
I love it. I love it. Any final questions, everybody? We don't have too much time left because we want to dig in and get you into the course itself. But any final questions for Renee? We would love to take those from you. Renee, what is sort of the next thing that you have going on?
I mean, we are in and out of lockdown, so who knows? Vikings is on TV. The season is ending, I think, eventually. So waiting for that.
Well, it's a perfect time, everybody, to sit down and get to work and learn some new skills of what those things that you've been wanting to learn for some time. So, Renee, we are, again, not too much time left to head into the course itself. We are so happy to have you create a new course here on Creative Live. We have tons and tons of fans here that are coming in and interacting, which is always great. Where can everybody find you, follow you, stay tuned, follow everything new that you are doing?
Well, my website URL has changed. It's shorter now, easier to remember. It's reneerobyn.com. My Instagram is Renée Robyn Photography, and then everything else is some version of Renée Robyn and Renée Robyn Photo. If you search it on the platforms, it'll probably pop up. So.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again to Renee for being live. And again, if you are on social media right now, what you're going to want to do is head over to the class page for the free premiere of the course that's going to be running for 24 hours, a little bit less now. And again, if you want to own the course, have access to the bonus materials to be able to follow along, you can purchase it. You can be a Creator Pass subscriber. And thank you again to Renée Robyn for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of Creative Live. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new experience on Creative Live. It's called Fast Class. You've told us that you're busy and sometimes it's hard to dive into a full class from start to finish. So essentially, we're now giving you a shortened highlight version of our top Creative Live classes. You can always dive into the full class with 5, 10, or 15 hours of great content. But now, if you're just looking to focus on a few of the highlights or want to be able to skip quickly to something that really interests you, you can now get a shortened fast class version of that class. We're also thinking this might be able to help you explore a new craft and save time while doing it. This is a great tool to curate your learning experience to help create the life that you seek. So you're probably thinking, great, how do I access this new experience on Creative Live? That's easy. All you have to do is be a subscriber to the Creator Pass, and then all this is yours.